Alright guys, and welcome back. Today I want to talk about what is the best Labrynth version that you can use. There are a lot of versions, so I want to go over every one of them and tell you which I think is by far the best one, because I think there is one that is better than the others, even though I could not find many deck lists for this specific one here on Master Duel Meta, so I'm showing you these example deck lists. Obviously you can go and make your own, but the basic idea of these different Labrynth deck comes over here. So the first one you have might look kind of basic, but the specific thing here is the Dania Servant package that you can play if you want to. The good thing is, so ignore everything else like the Rivalry of Warlords, obviously, or Skill Drain would be very nice, continuous Floodgates that you can play in every Labrynth variant, but for this specific thing you can play Nadir Servant at 2, and then you would play stuff like your Entes, like your Garua, stuff that you can send to the graveyard, the Malong for example, and then have a good interaction there. And you can also search your Dogmatica Ecclesia with that in order to get Dogmatica Punishment. So what you want to do is you go Nadir Servant, then you dump something from the extra deck, so for example an Entes to destroy something or Garua to draw a card, and then you can get your Dogmatica Ecclesia, and then you might be able to special summon her if there is a monster special summon from the extra deck. So if you use this on the second turn, this is very nice in breaking the board, which is something that Labrynth can definitely struggle with. So you start Nadir Servant, you dump Elder Entity and test, then you can destroy something with this, then you can special summon the Dogmatica Ecclesia. She can then search your Dogmatica Punishment, which obviously you can't activate on this turn. You could activate this if you had Labrynth Kuklok, or you could also go and use your Arias, the Labrynth Butler, to activate your punishment, which you could then use your punishment if you will activate it on your turn to, for example, dump a Garua into the grave if that functions in terms of attack points, and then you can get even more follow up here. You can also obviously dump the Tri-Brigade Arms Bucephalus, which is in here, so you can use your Dogmatica Punishment to dump a 3500 attack monster to be pretty sure that you can destroy anything that your opponent could have. And then if you're not aware, you will have this in your graveyard, which then will dump you the Garua into your graveyard, which then draws you a card. So this is why there is the Tri-Brigade Arms Bucephalus in here. So if you want to play the Nadir package, this means you will at least play the two Nadir Servants that are ultra rare here, then one Dogmatica Ecclesia, and then at least one Dogmatica Punishment. And because of the Dogmatica Punishment, you will use your extra deck space kind of like this, where you at least need one Tri-Brigade Arms Bucephalus, you will at least need one Garua and one Elder Entity and Test. This obviously depends if you are going for, in this specific case, the Pot of Extravagance here, then it could be so that you banish your targets for your punishment. So this is why this specific person is playing multiple of these cards here that you can dump to the graveyard with your Dogmatica Punishment. I think this is a kind of nice version. I was playing this before the new version, the Unchained version, came up, which we will talk about also in a moment here. I think this is really nice, and in comparison, for example, to what I would call the pure version, which is this one here that we are going to talk about next, where you can see there is no Dogmatica stuff in here. I personally think this is a bit better than is the pure version here. We are talking about pure version and unpure version, but all of them are still playing the furniture stuff here, and we will see this in a moment in the more like regular Trap Labrynth variant, but more to that in a moment. So I think this is the variant that is stronger than is the pure variant in my opinion, because one of the, as I already said, problematic things with Labrynth is that it has a really hard time going second and breaking the board if you're not going for something like evenly matched, which in some metas, for example the current one, is not that great, so that might not be something that you really want to do. And if we had the Fire King stuff, then it is even worse. So Nadir Servant can definitely help break the board. It's a bit worse when you go first, but then still nice, because you can just go Nadir Servant, dump the Garura, and then you can draw another card and get a Dogmatica Punishment to the field. The only disadvantage if you do this going first, it's definitely better going second, is that you will have to use up your normal summon, because there is no extra deck special summon monster in your opponent's field. So you, for example, can't get an Ariana to the field. So if you end up with an Nadir Servant and an Ariana in your hand, you will want to normal summon the Ariana, because it gets you into your Labrynth place, and then your Nadir Servant is a bit dead. So this is one thing that can happen, but I think this is quite nice, because the extra extra deck is definitely something in Labrynth that you can play a lot of different things in the extra deck, a lot of different stuff, because you don't really need the extra deck. I think a few cards here should be in any Labrynth extra deck. These are Chaos Angels because they are just so strong, and then also you want at least 2 Muckrackers, I think, because this can be very nice to get stuff back from the graveyard in some cases. I think everything else in the Labrynth extra deck is kind of flexible and depends a bit on the version that you are playing in your main deck. And the cool thing is that this engine is not really big. You need 3 additional cards. Dogmatica Punishment you could count as an additional card because you need to put it in here if you play this package, but there are also a lot of Labrynth decks just playing Dogmatica Punishment because it's just a good card. But as already said, if you play Dogmatica Punishment, you kind of commit a bit to having an extra deck that kind of looks like Garua, Entes, Bucephalus, and then you could also play cards like the Malong or also the Adignista Pegasus. So putting this in here definitely commits you to a specific sort of extra deck. So that's something to keep in mind. As I already said, I think this is better than the pure version. I call this the pure furniture version here, which, as you can see, as I already said, don't mind the continuous traps here. You could also put in a skill drain in here. You can also put a skill drain in here or rivalry in here. This is not what makes this the pure version. The pure version is basically where you only have the furniture guys and you don't have any additional package in here. So there's only Labrynth cards in here, no additional package. And for quite a while, this, in my opinion, was the strongest version. You can see the guy, because this was from the tournament here, was playing a few side deck cards, for example, the evenly matched when going second, and all of the floodgates here when going first, of course, with anti-spell fragrance, for example, being very strong. But yeah, this is the pure version. Not quite sure if you need 3 transaction rollbacks. I like having at least 1 Arias in here just to get him into rotation, and then it's pretty standard. Normally you only go for 2 welcome Labrynths, but that not so important here. The pure version is also very nice, and the upside of the pure version is that it is a bit cheaper, as you don't need to craft Nadir Servants if you don't have the card. You can see in the extra deck here, there's a lot more space. You can be a lot more flexible in here. We have triple Chaos Angel, which I definitely like because you always want to have Chaos Angels. Triple Muckracker makes sense, and then they are also playing like an XYZ package with Zeus, which you can do. I also have done this in the past, but the thing is that you basically never get into your Zeus because different things, for example, the Welcome Labyrinth, will lock you from summoning from the extra deck. So will, for example, the Nadir Servant. So extra deck is just not something that you will use a lot in your Labrynth list. I do kind of like playing an extra deck that looks something like this and incorporates a Dogmatica Punishment package, because it's just so nice getting additional advantage of this trap card, which is really strong. You can just destroy an opponent's monster and then destroy another one with the Test, for example. Really, really strong. But yeah, you can also decide to go for a pure version that would look something like this. And in my opinion, as I already said, this Dogmatica Nadir version is better than is the pure version. Then we have something that we could call the pure trap version, though they are deciding, and I couldn't find a list without them, they are deciding to play the furniture guys here. So you basically have to imagine the pure version that you can obviously also play with the furnitures if you want, because they are just so good without these, right? In the beginning, there were these 2 versions of Labrynth: the trap version, which did not play the furniture guys, and then the furniture version, which I think the reason why you definitely want to play furnitures in your deck and not play without them is that the furniture version has gotten a lot of support with new Labrynth cards, like, for example, the Arias. They work together, right? They work together so greatly that you want to accompany or to put them into your deck just to get the most amount of upside here. And the pure trap version, basically, as you can see here, will run a lot more like traps. You can see in comparison to here and this list, we have a lot more traps in here. Normally, you're playing something like Strikes or Solemn Judgments. You're definitely playing all the floodgates, because this version cannot generate as big as an advantage through time with the furniture guys, because normally they are not in here, right? So you have to gain advantage through stopping your opponent, slowing your opponent down with these floodgates here, and then resetting stuff with your lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle. But as I already said, I think this is the worst variant. Normally you will also find this a lot of the Heavenly Prison in this version, which this is a nice card protecting all your traps, and then you can also summon him from the hand and set another trap that you have to basically go back or put to the, what was it, to the graveyard or to the extra deck, but banish it during the end phase. So you can't, I have done this mistake in the past, you can't set your your floodgates with the guy, because the floodgates will then leave the field. You have to set something that you can activate, like Transactional Rollback, Big Welcome, or Sun Strike, or whatever. Though you cannot set, but yeah, you can set every trap. So in this pure trap version, you will always find a lot of the Heavenly Prison, because you will set way more traps, as you can see here, way more traps in here than in the other versions. And then you can protect them with a lot of the Heavenly Prison. This card is obviously not nice going second, which is another thing. This card is a really cool side deck card, but we are playing best of one. So siding this card in once your opponent has seen that you are Labrynth, that's quite nice, because then you can protect yourself from something like a Harpy's Feather Duster, for example, or a Lightning Storm, which this is really cool. But in our best of one format, this is not that great. This version is also quite expensive, because you have to craft a lot of the Heavenly Prison, which you definitely should play in a pure trap version like this one. So not the cheapest version here. We can once again see that we are using Dogmatic Punishment and the Dogmatic Punishment extra deck slots here. And you can see the extra deck is basically the same from time to time, with the staples being the Chaos Angel, the Muckracker, and then something like the Dark, always in the extra deck basically. But yeah, this version in my opinion is the worst, and I would not say that you should go for this. In my opinion, is also in terms of playing Labrynth is the least fun. The other ones are just more fun. Just setting all these traps and then doing trap things is a bit boring. Interacting with your furniture guys more is way more interesting in my opinion. You can also play stuff like the Ariane, which in this deck you would not play, and you can also see we are not playing a lot of Ariana, so the Labrynth engine here is definitely a bit smaller, and the traps are on the higher side. And then we have the version that I wanted to say for last, that in my opinion is the best version by far. If you ask me, this is just the best version, the Unchained version, playing with the Unchained package. The cool thing about this version is that you don't need your extra deck space, so you have no problem slotting in cards like your Yama and then Rage and then your Anguish. And you can also play an Unchained Abomination. You don't need to play 2 Anguish and 3 Rage, and you also don't need to play 3 Yama. This is just the only list I could find. 2, 2, and 1 would also be fine, and then you can put in other stuff in here that you want, an additional Chaos Angel, for example, maybe another Muckracker here. And then in your main deck, you will need the 1 Escape of the Unchained, and then the Unchained Soul of Shavara. If you're not aware of how this deck operates, in the top right corner, I have a video linked where I show you the combo for the Unchained Labrynth thing. But one thing to keep in mind is that you really have to understand when to activate this stuff, because in order to get into this play, you basically need to start with 2 monsters that you can make into a Yama that can then search your Shavara, and then you need to destroy 1 card on the field, which can't be your Yama normally because you need to clamp up in your Rage. And this version will even become better when we get the SP in the next pack. Then this version will even be better, because you will regularly have your Unchained Soul of Rage that you can then use to link summon with one of your opponent's monsters into a SP Little Knight and banish an additional card, and then also have the SP Little Knight's additional banishing effect. So that's really insane. The good thing about this package is that you only need these 2 cards in the main deck here, and then you only need a few cards in the extra deck where you have space in your extra deck. That's not a big problem. This package definitely gives you the biggest upside, and the cards just function so great together. For example, if you have a Chaos Angel in your graveyard, and then the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama is in your graveyard too, which is not hard to achieve, and a card gets destroyed. Then you can banish your Yama from the graveyard and resummon a Chaos Angel, which then can once again use its banishing effect. This one can also resummon a Lovely or a Lady. This is just insane. Can also resummon an Ariana. It doesn't really matter because all of them are fiends, so they are interacting really well together, and this is, in my opinion, I don't know if people did not catch up to this yet, but this is by far the best Labrynth version. This has also been proven in the TCG, not so much in the OCG, but yeah, this is, in my opinion, by far the best version. Let me know in the comments what you think of the different Labrynth versions. Which is your favorite? Which do you like to play most? And what do you think is the strongest one? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for being here. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and we will see each other in the next one.